Hello, friends. Today, we will hear the story of a young woman whose life took an unpleasant turn following her forced marriage to an older man as a teenager. Let our main character delve into the narrative. Hello, my name is Batul. I am a 29-year-old married woman. My husband is 30 years older than me. Yes, you heard it right. He is exactly 30 years older. I am originally from the East. We are 12 siblings in my family. As you can imagine, growing up in a household with 12 siblings was not easy. We were knee-deep in poverty. My family would go to the west of the country every summer as seasonal agricultural workers. Obviously, we all went together. We would set up tents wherever we went and stayed there until the end of the agricultural season. And when the season ended, we packed up our stuff and returned to our hometown. We tried to make a living with the money we saved until the next season. I have 3 older sisters. They are married and even they joined us with their husbands during those trips. One day a man approached me while I was working in the field. He asked who I was and where I was from. Turns out, it would be a fateful moment in my life. My mother woke me up the next morning. My father was talking to a man in front of the tent. I realized that the man next to my father was the man who had asked me questions in the field the day before. "Kiss your husband's hand," my father demanded. I was surprised. The man he called my husband was even older than my dad. I couldn't say anything. I did as he said because I was only 17 years old back then. The next day they performed Islamic marriage for us. I said goodbye to my mother and siblings. He seated me in the car and told me we were leaving. Then he turned to me, saying, "Don't be afraid, there is nothing to cry about. I am your husband now. I will take good care of you. I will buy whatever you want. I fell in love with you at first sight. I have been buying products here for years. I have seen many workers here, but I have never seen a beauty like you." He was a very sweet-tongued man. He rented me a house and let me choose all the furniture in the house. He spent only 3 nights per week with me because he was already married to another woman. That's why we only had nikah, a religious marriage, with me. He was a wholesaler of vegetables and was very well off. I found out later that he gave my father a lot of money for marrying me. My father had sold me not for a cheap price. On the first day of our marriage, he told me that he did not want children. My first year was like hell. I was crying all the time. My mom didn't have a phone. I was calling my dad and my dad only let me talk to my mom once a month. My husband was so jealous that he didn't even want me to go out. After a while, I had a broken psychology. He then allowed me to go out because I was crying. There was a public education course next to our house and he enrolled me there. I went to all courses there for 2 years. The courses changed my personality. The illiterate, naive girl was replaced with an intelligent woman. By that time, I was already 20 years old and my husband started visiting me only once a week. One night when he fell asleep, I went through his phone and found out that he had another girl, just like me, and was renting a separate flat for her. He didn't give me any trouble in terms of money. He paid my rent and gave me money regularly, but he didn't buy me any house or a car. Then I realized that he was afraid that I would leave him and run away. His sexual desire for me had also decreased. Once he told me, "Take care of your appearance. You are young, but you are dressing and behaving like my mother." His words hurt me deeply. I told him that I felt insecure because he had another woman now. I asked whether he bought her a house. "One day, I'll run away and you'll see," I threatened him. He suddenly changed. All right, my dear, I'll divorce my wife soon. I'll have a marriage with you. That woman is temporary. Then I'll build a house for you and I'll buy you a car, he started assuring me. Don't lie, you didn't take me out with you even once. I want to go to work. I'm tired of being at home. I'm 21 years old. He said there was no way he would let me work anywhere else, and after I insisted, he agreed that I would work with him. At his workplace, he didn't tell anyone that I was his wife. His official wife was an illiterate woman and never visited the office. Her daughter was older than me and got married and moved abroad. I started working in the accounting department. My husband was insanely jealous of me. I was very careful about the way I dressed in order to make him even more jealous. I started dressing provocatively. Eventually, he told his close friends that I was his wife. That's when I realized how stupid men were and how easy it was to manipulate them. His close friends were also rich people, and sometimes they would come over when my husband was away. What should I offer you, tea or coffee? I would ask them in a flirty way. Of course, I never broke my manners in front of my husband. His friends understood what I was up to and they tried to meet me when my husband was away. He had a friend named Fikret, a short bald man with a big belly, who was crazy about me. When my husband was with him, he would call me sister, and when he wasn't with my husband, he would call me dear Batul. One day my husband left town to buy some goods. He didn't feel comfortable to leave his young woman alone. But what could my dear husband do? He had 3 women and had to make money. Since I started working, I have been treating my husband like a king, giving him kisses. I welcome him in the mornings, I sexually provoke him at work as much as I can, he goes crazy about me. He compares the dumb girl waiting for him at home to the attractive woman at the workplace. I was starting to gain control. He didn't dare to lock me in home. Taking advantage of my husband's absence, Fikret dropped by in one morning. I knew he was coming to the office, so I wore a knee-length floral skirt. As Fikret walked in, he said, "Oh dear Batul, good morning." I said, "Welcome Mr. Fikret. I was just having breakfast, won't you come in?" He jumped in right away. After breakfast I offered him coffee. I crossed my legs in front of him and said, "I swear Mr. Fikret, of all my husband's friends, you are the most handsome." "You should have seen me when I was young," he said. "Apologies for interrupting you," I said, "but I am a little cold. I was feeling warm before my husband left in the morning. So I turned on the air conditioner, and now I feel a little cold. I wonder if I can turn it off." "Whatever you want, it makes no difference to me," he said. "But look at yourself, you are sweating." "Instead of turning it off, I'd better put something on," I said and stood up and took my red underwear from the drawer. Showing it slightly to him, I said I was coming right away and went into the restroom. When I came back, the man was drenched in sweat. He asked me whether I wanted to have dinner with him in the evening. What a womanizer you are. I am a married woman, and on top of that, I'm your friend's wife. What will happen if he hears that I went out with a handsome man like you? I told him. There is no need for him to find out, he suggested. No, I can't do that to my generous husband. For me to do something like this, you must be at least as generous as my husband, I went on saying. What do you want? He inquired. I told him directly and with courage that if I had an apartment of my own, I could have dinner with him in that apartment. Just as he was about to speak, I held my hand to his lips as if to say hush. The apartment better had an air conditioning because I'm on fire, I said. He suggested that we have a meal first and decide later what to do next. I stood up, looked into his eyes, kissed his cheek, leaned into his ear, and said, "Don't think too much, dear, come when you are ready, I don't have time to waste. The man who will be in my life must be strong and generous in every way," I said before opening the door and showing him out. He left without saying anything. A week later, when my husband was on a business trip again, Fikret dropped by. "Let's go," he said and showed on his phone the picture of a newly built apartment near the university. "We'll register this apartment on your name," he said. The man had lost his mind. I told him that I couldn't believe it and that I was too excited. We did register the apartment on my name. Of course, he got what he wanted and he was very satisfied. That wasn't the end of what I was going to get from him. A few of his friends turned out to be as generous as him. 2 years ago my husband went bankrupt. He barely had enough money to support himself. I got 2 flats from him. So I let him visit me once a week just for the sake of those 2 flats.